Who's good, potato? Spin the leak here, and I gotta say, I know one person is the least excited about this review, especially if they've seen it in the tile down below. So be sure to check that out. Before I actually get into the review, I'm gonna go ahead and cover a little bit of lore because there was a lot going on in this movie. I want to sum it up before I start getting into detail, just to make things easier. So, the movie is Nausicaä, the Valley of the Wind. So, okay, where to begin? So, basically, after the 7 Days of Fire, or basically the end of the world, 1,000 years later is where the movie takes place. Most of the remainder of mankind and its civilizations are at war. Including this war are the Pejit and Nausicaä. Now, these two factions are warring over I can't remember what they're called. Let's just call them giants. Are warring over a dormant giant that was found under Pejit. Now, there's a lot of the war between the Pejit and the Nausicaä. That is very in-depth. I'm not really going to cover it. All you have to know is these guys have been fighting over this. And it ends up getting dropped by the Nausicaä in the Valley of the Wind, who is basically a peaceful settlement. So, not only does the war between these two factions lead to almost the total devastation of both sides, but it gets the Valley of the Wind involved and is almost destroyed. Now, the big threats, basically the giants, whenever they arrived, the Earth was bathed in fire for 7 days. Now, modern civilization was on the downfall, and it's unclear the origins of these giants. They seem to have been biogenetically engineered. They're massive, they spew lasers, there's potential mechanical augmentations to them. Whenever you look at their skeletons, not only are they metal large and never fucking dwindling, but there are ball joints in them. So these things could potentially be man-made. The fire that it's talking about is not just the lasers that these creatures shot from their mouths, but it could also be nuclear weapons. Let's face it, the world's about to end. You're gonna stop that shit. After the 7 days of fire, the Earth is completely and totally polluted, and a swamp of decay starts to form and slowly spread throughout the world. Now, this swamp grows fungus that releases poisonous gases that will liquefy your lungs in roughly 5 minutes. And in the wake of this swamp of decay, giant insects start appearing. Extremely hard exoskeletons. They attack when, aggravated or struck upon. These things are mostly neutral until you act out in violence. So, with all of that out of the way, it's time to begin the review. Okay, so as I stated previously, whenever the giant is dropped in the middle of the Valley of the Wind, the Nausicaä and the Pejit start fighting over it. The Pejit have no idea that the Nausicaä have it for a while, but the Nausicaä are on their way to Pejit to go ahead and let them know and say, hey, guess what? We got your balls in a vice, you better join us. They get shot down halfway, and this turns into an epic journey of Nausicaä trying to save her people when the Pejit are trying to reclaim the giant. How they plan to do this? They plan on arranging a large amount of insects and bringing it to the valley, and in the chaos, swooping up the giant. This is basically just a mixture of a journey of revenge on the Nausicaän side, as well as conquest. It is the Pejit trying to get an upper hand, and it is the Valley of the Wind trying to survive. All this revolves around a singular prophecy. A prophecy of someone dressed in blue robes descending into a golden field. Which, I'm not going to tell you who that is. I'm pretty sure if you read the title, you probably know what the fuck is going on. Now, this story is pretty dark, and pretty much everything points to this prophecy coming true. Everything happened just so this prophecy could happen. And basically what this is meant to do is make it easier for mankind to live alongside the insects and sort of unite them under a singular cause. Whether this happens or not, I'm not really sure. Just watch the end credits, you'll probably find out, because there's a lot of stuff going on there. This is a very in-depth movie. The cinematography is great. You can't really count for acting since it is an animated movie. The story is really gripping. Like I said, there's a lot going on. From start to finish, you're being fed information and it starts building up. You start noticing a lot of small details. This is entertaining. It's great to look at, and this is my 5th time watching it, in all honesty, since I first saw it back in 2003. I saw it on Cartoon Network. There was some sort of like big animated movie event. They were showing all sorts of shit, and they showed a lot of Studio Ghibli movies. I like this movie, but I have one issue with it. And this is going to be a spoiler. Spoiler. The one thing I hate, this movie's probably the reason I hate it, is whenever a character is killed off and then immediately brought back to life. You give us this emotional shock and then take it away. In the end, the act is ruined because the person didn't die for anything. If they hadn't been brought back, they would have died with purpose. But in being brought back, they really sacrificed nothing for their actions. This is horrible because it fucks your audience emotionally and then immediately takes that away from them. See, a death of a character is much more meaningful than the immediate resurrection. This movie is the reason I hate that, because it's such a long and sad scene when the protagonist dies, only to be brought back seconds later. And then the continuation of that scene would be, oh my god, it's so nice. Look at this friendship. Their hearts have opened up. No. No! I despise that. I absolutely fucking detest it. I cannot stand that shit. So you automatically know that this is losing at least 1 star from whatever rating I was going to give it because of that shit. So! End spoiler. Winston's not having this shit. Now that's out of the way. Poke. This movie is wrapped up in a neat little bow. It is a very interesting story. It all comes together very nicely. The animation may not have aged well, and because of how slow the film is, it may not go over well with modern audiences. Unless someone is an avid fan of the studio that produced this, or just this type of animation in general. So this is a very exclusive audience at this point in time. Back in the day, this would have been awesome, but it's dwindled. The American voice acting is... I'll put it this way. I cannot watch Dragon Ball Z in its original Japanese dialect. Goku sounds like a whiny cunt. I cannot watch this movie in its English dub just because the Japanese flows much better. That's it. That's really all it is. It's really a mixed bag, but typically you want original Japanese dub over... Well, not dub. There's no dubbing over. It's the original Japanese language as opposed to dubbing over a film. This one is going to walk away with 3.5 potatoes. It could have been 4.5, but it lost that star for being a cunt! Let that sink in for a second. It lost a star just for being a cunt. Well, not a star, a potato. 3.5 potatoes. I don't do stars. I'm not offering this up as a sacrifice to some sort of cosmic Lovecraftian being. Or am I? I'm not. Cosmic beings aside. This movie's walking away with 3.5. It won't hold up for most of today's viewers. You have to know about this film, you have to want to find this film, and typically you have to purchase this film, which means you have some experience with it or you are invested in it in the long run. Most people aren't just going to go out of their way for it these days. And if you do know and you do watch it, there are still those small issues. The aged animation, the slow progression that most people won't be interested in. And then there is that little spoiler that I talked about. I can't be alone in the world with that. That one little detail. I cannot be alone in the world with that. There has to be someone else that agrees with me just for that fucking reason. Whenever I saw Percy Jackson that did that thing, immediate 1 potato. I don't even like Percy Jackson. No idea where the fuck it came from. It came out of Mars. I saw it with an ex-girlfriend, and let me tell you, I fucking hated it the moment that happened. I was into that movie. I was starting to dig it, but fuck it. But this isn't about Percy Jackson. This is about Nausicaä and the Valley of the Wind. I do love this film. But you know me. Whenever it comes to something I love, I'm tough. Unless it's this. Like, comment, subscribe, keep on keeping on.